Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Take Two podcast. We do every Tuesday night. We are your Frame brothers. I am Jameson Frame, accompanied by my brother Reed Frame, as always. We will be diving into all things NFL. Happy playoff week for those in fantasy. I know most standard leagues playoffs start this week. So, congratulations to everybody who made it. Better luck next year for those you didn't. Um, I know I got some kind of split between different leagues. I'm in good shape in some, bad in others. So, what we're going to be diving into today is kind of some fantasy football overview. Who's done well, who's done bad. We can kind of talk about who's got some good matchups going forward to kind of help you through the playoffs and stuff like that going through there. Last week we had a big episode. I mean, it was big to us. We talked about the Heisman race. Obviously, the official voting ended yesterday. The announcement is made on who won it on Saturday, the 14th. That is a big episode. If you want to find out who we picked, we had a good debate back and forth. It was a great podcast. Go please take a listen, give us your thoughts on it. Very controversial topic among the community. So it's great to get some feedback and your guys' thoughts on what we hit, what we didn't hit, that stuff as always. So, and going forward, future episodes, if you want to take a listen, glad to have you on board. Hope you here for the long haul. Give us your insight on what we're talking about, things you want us to talk about, things you think we're wrong about, things you think we're right on. So we try to do some hot takes here and there. At the end of the season, we'll kind of wrap up all the hot takes we've done throughout the football season and kind of see where we lined up, how many we hit on, how many we didn't. So without further ado, I think we'll jump into kind of the fantasy football recap of the fantasy football regular season, if you will. Players that have done well and players that have not. How you doing, Raid?
I'm doing great. All I got to say is my favorite episode so far was last week's. So if
For
you're
sure.
watching this, if this is your first podcast, I would for sure go watch last week's. Kind of shows you what we're all about, shows you what this podcast we want it to be. I really liked last week, and I think if you want a good listen, go listen to that podcast. It's a really interesting one, and I would suggest watching it.
Yeah, I think we're going to also try and find topics similar to that in the future that
For
we can kind
sure.
of debate back and forth. I mean, we had very two different opposite sides of the opinion on that one, which is a great episode of why we kind of came with some facts on why we thought our the way we did. So in the future, we'll try and come up with similar topics that we can debate back and forth because I think they made a great episode and I think it's fun for everybody to listen to as well and give their thoughts on. So if people have ideas on things they want us to debate, please throw them in the chat. We'll do the research. We'll come up with some good stats and facts and we'll get after it. So I know
For
we both
sure.
looking doing the research as well. So
We love it. Something we definitely are both passionate about, and we love debating each other and stuff. I mean, always have that brotherly rivalry. Sometimes it sucks that we both kind of agree in our football schemes and football thoughts, and but there's some chances where we get to debate, and I think those are the chances we got to take a hold of, and always have fun with. So definitely looking for those opportunities.
yeah, I have found it interesting how similar we think when it comes to a lot of things,
Um,
schematically, things that we think are
for sure.
important. It's kind of crazy.
I think it's because, I mean, me growing up, who taught me football? I mean, it was mostly you. Like,
Right.
you sat downstairs teaching me Madden, and that's my type of football. And so I kind of t adopted your scheme, adopted what you taught me. So as I've branched out, I've gotten more football knowledge. I've kind of wavered a little bit of what you've taught me. So I think there's a few different ideas we have, but my base scheme is definitely from you. So I think that's where we're both similar.
For sure. For sure. Let's dive into quarterbacks first and foremost. So the top 10 fantasy quarterbacks. This is in a PPR standard scoring league. I think PPR is kind of the standard scoring, if you will, in fantasy nowadays. I
Yeah,
don't feel like non-PPR leagues are as popular as they used to be. So everything that we'll be talking about is always PPR leagues. So regardless of super flex or not super flex or dynasty or redraft, these are the top 10 quarterbacks that have finished the season this fall. So you have Lamar Jackson topping it off the list. So him, not really surprised. His rushing upside always has an effect on his
yeah.
outcome.
Coming into the season, I had Josh Allen as my number one, as Josh Allen's number two, so
Right.
right up there. I think I had Lamar Jackson as three. So I mean, I feel like what your predictions, you're like, hey, I just want my number one guy to be in the top three. Like, yeah, is he gonna finish number one? That's what I think most likely. Josh Allen, I had number one, he's number two, and Lamar Jackson having an amazing season. He looks great on the field, and if you look great on the field, you look great in fantasy. I can definitely see why Lamar Jackson's number one. And I don't find that very surprising.
Yeah, your top four are all averaging 21 fantasy points a week or more. So you have Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts. Those are all your quarterbacks are 21 points and above a week, which is awesome. League winners, right? You have those
Yeah, for
quarterbacks,
sure.
you have in a really good fantasy
And
season.
if I would have told you these would be your top four at the beginning of the season, would you be surprised by any of these?
Probably not.
No, I would have been
No.
like Jalen Hurts t fourth. Yeah, I could see it. Like I wasn't pro I probably would have put him sixth ish, but four I can definitely see, and like I'm not very surprised by this top four at all.
It's those
So
rushing touchdowns for Hurts though that
yeah,
always
for
get him
sure.
up
It's
there.
that tush push. Yeah, but when we get down to five, that's where I'm getting surprised, and I think that's where everyone else is surprised. Number five is Baker Mayfield.
Number five is Jaden Daniels.
I have number five is
Mayfield
Baker.
is six.
Did he play an extra game? No, he wouldn't have. It's Wednesday. I might be looking at a different scoring system.
Yeah, you sure you're in PPR? It wouldn't matter. I guess it wouldn't matter for quarterbacks.
No.
Interesting. Okay, regardless, they're 5 and 6. Um, one of us, I might not have the up to date. Mine says 13 games played. That might be my problem. We're going into week 15, I believe, are we not?
Yes, we are, I believe.
Yeah, so
How
mine,
many
mine are
points do you have him scoring?
mine are probably wrong.
How many
Anyways,
points do you have Baker at?
Baker has 259.3.
I have Baker at 289.3.
Yeah, I'm a week behind. Let me bad website. Not gonna share that website with anybody. All right. Anyway, so Baker Mayfield fifth. Go ahead. You brought him up.
Uh, I I actually started this year with Baker. I traded him away. I'm still liking the trade I had. I mean, finishing top five. I also have Jane Daniels on my team, so I had a quarterback. Baker finishing top five, I think, caught everyone by surprise. I don't think looking at the beginning of the season, you're like, hey, Baker's going to be a top 10 QB. I thought Baker was going to be a mid-tier QB on a mid-tier team, but Baker, I think he's starting to turn his career around. I mean, the Buccaneers, I wouldn't say are a great team. I mean, they're a decent team. I wouldn't say they're a Super Bowl contending team at all. And Baker's having a good year with them. So I just think it's extremely surprising to see Baker as a top five fantasy QB this year.
Yeah, I'll do you one better. I think Bo Nix finishing top 10 is
Yeah.
probably the biggest surprise out of this list, at least in my opinion. He came out of
Mm.
nowhere. I mean, I know who you're gonna say. We'll save that one, but Bo Nix, in my opinion, out of this list are this is the biggest surprise. One, to start off the season, he struggled a little bit, right? The first game against the Seahawks came out a little slow, kind of as you expect a rookie quarterback to, right? Nobody expects him to come out of the gate just blazing it, right? So it took him and Sean Payton a little bit to get their feet underneath them. But once they have looked really good the last couple weeks, and they're
Yeah, they
really
have.
starting to put it together. So Bo Nix sneakily has put a good season together. Props to anybody who drafted Bo Nix late and kind of stuck with him throughout the season. Definitely paying off big for those fantasy owners.
Yeah, and you know as much as anybody how much of a Bo Nix fan I am.
Yeah.
The year before he got drafted, I was so high on Bo Nix. It was his first year at Oregon. And I was like, hey, Bo Nix is gonna be a great player. I wanted Bo Nix for Heisman. He wasn't even the Heisman contention. I wanted him to go for the draft that year because he was eligible. I wanted the Seahawks to take him like the fourth round and like have a project QB. He then stayed in college for one more year, and he lit it up at Oregon. He looked
Hmm.
great, and then he came back, higher draft prospect. Broncos took him, and I've always been a Bo Nix fan, and I still am. I love to see him succeed. Top nine QB. Hate to say I called it, but I feel like I kind of called it. I'm a big Bo Nix fan, and I love to see it. So Bo Nix
You
being,
called it, but then you didn't like stick to your guns. You kind of
you're
like
right.
backed
You're right.
off of it.
I called it, and then I was like, I kind of forgot about it, I guess. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so
But I'm a big Bo Nix fan. I love Bo Nix. Wish he was on the Seahawks.
we'll 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 leave the Seahawks out of this one for now. We'll keep it to fantasy. We tend to get off track for those who've been with us throughout the process. We're both big Seahawks fans. We can get off track pretty easily. So we'll reel it back in. We'll stay on track.
Yeah.
Who is your biggest surprise at this top 10?
My biggest surprise is actually Patrick Mahomes not being higher.
This is not where I thought you were going with it. I was going to bring this up actually.
But yeah,
So
Patrick Mahomes is at 10. And I think everyone knows at this point, if you're a football fan, Patrick Mahomes is the biggest glazed person in the world. I mean, if you watch any, I honestly at this point, any announcer, Kansas City will have nothing to do with the game. It'll be an NFC game that has nothing to do with the AFC, has nothing to do with the Chiefs, and somehow Patrick Mahomes is brought up. And you're just like, what is going on? Why is Patrick Mahomes being brought up in this game? And their glorious king is the 10th ranked QB in fantasy wise.
yeah, I think it's funny because this would be his first fit season not finishing top 10 if for whatever reason he doesn't start picking it up and crack over Kyler Murray, who's currently
A
in
point
10th.
behind him.
No.
I have Patrick Mahomes at 235. I have Kyler Murray at 234.
You're looking at standard scoring? Because I
I'm
got
pretty sure
230.9 for Kyler and 228.6 for Patrick Mahomes.
we're getting a bunch of different points here.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'm looking
I,
at,
they're
yeah,
pretty similar though. They're pretty
yes.
similar.
Regardless, you would think Mahomes with his repertoire, right, that he'd be top 10 no matter what, right? He'd be instantly in there. The thing with Patrick Mahomes is he hasn't, statistically speaking, he hasn't had that great of a year. I mean,
A lot of interceptions.
they're winning games, right? So it's not a problem. He's got 11 picks, which isn't outlandish for him. The last 4 seasons, including this one, he has had 10 or more, 13, 12, 14, and then 11 this season. So it's not outrageous for him to have double digits picks. His touchdowns are down though quite a bit, and his yards are down quite a bit, right? He's always cracked over 4,000 pretty easily throughout his entire career. He's at 3,100, still enough time to get to 4,000, but it's going to be a stretch. Going to have to really work for it. Plus, if they lock up the number one seed, he may not play week 18. So there's always that to take into effect.
For sure. Yeah. I would you say this is Patrick Mahomes' worst year?
Statistically, yeah, for sure. Just play wise, I don't think he's looked nearly as sharp as he has
Well,
his whole career almost.
he definitely hasn't looked like the playmaker Patrick Mahomes, but he looks like a good quarterback, and clearly you can see that in his team's record. Like they're winning games. So is there much hate? Is there a lot of hate I can throw at Patrick Mahomes' way? No, I can't because they're winning games. But he doesn't look like the put the team on my back playmaker quarterback anymore. He just looks like a arm talent QB that can make plays when he's needed to. So yeah,
Yeah, the thing with the Chiefs this year is they've taken on kind of the mindset of we don't need to be winning games flashy, right? We're gonna do whatever it takes to win the game. We don't care about stats. It doesn't matter how it looks. It could be ugly. A lot of their wins have been, but all that matters is they get the win at the end of the year. Patrick Mahomes has kind of embodied that, especially specifically with his stats. Hey, I don't care how many picks I throw. I don't care what my stats look like. If we're winning games, don't care. Which a lot of people, including Jamar Chase last night, right? Scoring that touchdown late in the game, had the game he could have went down, didn't need to score that second touchdown, patch the stats, makes him look good at the end of the year. But at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes doesn't care about that.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. Is there anything else you find surprising in this top 10?
I thought you were gonna say Sam Darnold was your biggest
I was
surprise.
going to leave that for you because that was your little hot take. I kind of wanted to
But
leave that
yes,
for you.
before at the start of the season, I don't want to jinx this, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. I did say Sam Darnold was going to be a top 10 quarterbacks this year. The problem is I didn't follow through on it in fantasy. I didn't pick him up or trade for him in other leagues to back my thought, but I did call it at the start of the season before it started.
So he's giving you advice, just not, he's not putting his money where his mouth is basically.
Hey,
So
you didn't either. You didn't pick up Tyrone Tracy when you thought he was going to be good either. So
true.
we're in this
That's
together.
it's very true. But I did pick up Kyron Williams. I'm always going to
Okay.
go back to that. I'm always
Stop.
going back to that.
Stop it.
I should start trusting myself a little bit more. That's all I gotta say. I think you need to too.
Yeah, I do. I need to start trusting my opinion on something. I'm also wrong though sometimes. I'm not always right, so I can't always stick to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's time to move on to the running backs, unless you got anything else for QBs.
No, go ahead, lead her off.
All right. If you had to guess, you probably already looked at running backs, but if you had to guess before looking at running backs, who would you say was one?
I would. It's between Derrick Henry and Saquon, right? I would say because of the last couple games Saquon has had, I would say he probably took the jump. Also, Derrick Henry hasn't had a good last couple weeks. Um, having looked at it, I know I'm correct. Saquon Barkley is the leader, but yeah, just with the last couple weeks that Saquon has gone absolutely insane. That's pretty wild. The fact that Christian McCaffrey went 101 when Saquon Barkley probably should have went 101 in all the drafts is pretty crazy.
So I have never been a fan of CMC going one of one. CMC has never been able to finish a full season except for 1 year. I just That man is so injury prone. I'm not a big fan of CMC.
It's sad because he's such a good player too. If
Oh,
he
an
could stay
amazing player.
healthy, amazing. And it's just sad that he can't.
Injuries are just ruining his career.
Injuries this season are just ruining fantasy. If you made it through fantasy this year without losing a player or two, props to you because that is hard to do.
I don't think I have. I mean,
That is
Trevor Lawrence now. Trevor
that's
Lawrence
you
now.
see, you lost one.
I lost one. Right before
It's
playoffs, too. You hate to see it.
I lost quite a few, and it's devastating. Down
Yeah.
the list, Saquon, Derrick Henry, sneakily Elvin Kamara finishing third. Wild.
Alvin Kamara has been doing it for a while too. I feel like he's finished top 10 for past 4 years, even with the assaulting a person in the elevator or whatever that whole ordeal was. He still finishes like top 10 every season. So
Yeah, it's. I thought for sure this year he was going to take a step back. I thought he'd still be good, but I didn't think he was going to be top five running backs in the league good. And I mean, the Saints, gave him that new contract. They said, "You're having a great season. We're going to reward you by paying you." Not something I would have done, but is what it is. So those who gambled on Kamara, again, good on you. I drafted Bijan, who finished fourth. I took him as the second running back off the board. It was either between him or Saquon. I mean, I still came out all right, but Saquon was obviously the better choice. Messed up there a little bit.
yeah, for sure. And I came in as Bijan finishing one for me.
That's what
So
I thought too.
me and you both had Bijan very high. And again, if you have your guy number one, you want to see him top three, but Bijan finishes just outside of top three and barely outside of that top three. He's at four. As a Bijan owner, I'm pleased. I'm definitely pleased. The one league I have him in, I traded for him midseason during a slump, so I feel like I got perfect value for Bijan. So I'm very pleased with Bijan's performance, and I'm looking to next year that he's going to do probably better. So very pleased with Bijan.
Yeah, for sure. Finishing out the list, you got Gibbs, Achan, Jacobs, Kyron Williams, David Montgomery, Joe Mixon. I don't feel like there's a lot of surprises in this top 10.
I have a surprise in the top 11.
Chase Brown.
So coming, you know this, coming into the season, I was very high on Chase Brown. I thought he was going to come in and be the starting running back. He didn't start as the starting running back, and then injuries came in, and he found himself at the starting role, and he has been, I would say, electric for that Bengals offense. He has been a workhorse for him, and he is a top 11 back. And I would say next week we will see him in the top 10. I'm expecting another big game from Chase Brown, and we will see him in the top 10 by next week.
The other people that didn't make the top 10 but are just kind of borderline outside that are kind of surprising that they didn't. Or sorry, that they're there. Chuba Hubbard is the first. He's 12. He's right below Chase Brown. If anybody would have told me that Chuba Hubbard is going to finish 12th or even potentially threaten to break top into the top 10, I would have called you crazy at the beginning of the year. Specifically because Jonathan Brooks was there and he was supposed to be, their future, right? Hubbard has looked amazing all season. He got rewarded by a contract similar to the Alvin Kamara situation. Unfortunately, Brooks goes down with tearing his ACL again, which is absolutely brutal for him. I was really excited to see him play, and I thought he was going to be good for them. This is only helps Chuba Hubbard. He's looked great. He's going to continue to get the ability to pound the rock without much competition in that backfield. So good for Chuba Hubbard. Devastating for owners of Jonathan Brooks in dynasty leagues such as myself. It is what it is. The other one that surprises me is Brees Hall finishing 15th.
And
What what
I
has
called,
happened to Brees Hall that he's
I my bad. I've never been a fan of Brees Hall. I called this. I swear I called this Jets preview. I said Brees Hall hype is not worth it. Do not draft him. Bijan is better. Look where we are now. If you listen to Reed, I promise you, you're probably in the playoffs. I
good call. Good call.
I've never liked Brees Hall. I honestly don't think I ever will. Um, Top 15 again. That's a decent running back. I'm not saying he's horrendous. Like if you have a top 15 running back, that's a startable running back. He's not a bad running back. But where he was going in drafts, you would want him to be top 10 for sure. I would, if where he was going in drafts, I'd want him to be in the top six. He didn't finish there, and I'm not a big fan of Brees Hall.
No, I hear you there. So some sneaky picks that either they're probably all roster. Who am I kidding? Some sneaky running backs that are probably league winners, specifically in playoffs because of their matchups that they have going forward. I got a couple for you. One, Isaac Garendo, if he plays and is he kind of gets over this, was it an ankle injury? His ankle or knee? Um, Foot. So ankle, I think. Anyways, if he plays, he's got a great matchup through playoffs. They got the Rams this week. They got the Dolphins after that. And they got Detroit, which is a tougher matchup in the actual championship game. But his two games meeting up to the championship game, great value there. The other one is um, Charbonnet.
I was about to pull him up, yeah.
If Kenneth Walker doesn't play, Charbonnet had a great game last week. The Seahawks also have great matchups for running backs the next couple weeks, right? They have Green Bay this coming week, which is a pretty decent matchup for them. They got a harder matchup against the Vikings, but then championship week they have the Bears, which is a great matchup for all running backs. So
Any
Charbonnet,
person, yeah.
yeah, Charbonnet could be a great sneaky pickup if you have a roster spot on one of your teams through waivers tonight. You could scoop him up. Deeper leagues, he's probably not going to be available. Um, Sneaky pickup that I recommend. I'm going to go use a waiver wire in one of my redraft leagues tonight just to take a shot on.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kenneth Walker went out, and Zach Charbonnet is definitely the number one guy coming up. The Seahawks have shown it all year that Zach Charbonnet is closer to Kenneth Walker than a lot of people think.
Yep.
They have been splitting carries a lot. Of course, me, you are very experienced with these two running backs.
Yeah.
Zach Charbonnet, I have mixed feelings about him as a player. He looks decent. Coming out of the draft, I felt like he was a little bit overhyped. But now, after watching last game, and he definitely has progressed from his rookie year to this year, and I'm starting to like him a little bit more. He's a physical runner, hits the hole hard. He doesn't dance around in the backfield. He sees gap, hits gap as his
Mhm.
type of running. Um, and sometimes it works out for him, sometimes it doesn't. I completely agree with you against that Bears team. I feel like he's going to go off if he is getting that start. So if you're in you find yourself in the championship, I would definitely find a flex spot, or if you have to, a running back spot in your roster for Zach Charbonnet.
And that's very dependent on Kenneth
Kenneth
Walker.
Walker. Yeah,
Obviously, Kenneth
100%.
Walker, if he's healthy, he's in the game. The problem is now that Zach Charbonnet kind of went off, is it's kind of murky waters for both running backs going forward. Because Zach Charbonnet has showed, hey, he deserves more carries in games, which is only going to hurt Kenneth Walker's workload. But when Kenneth Walker gets back, he's not going to get a full workload now either because he's also injured. They're probably going to want to put him on a snap count. Plus, they have Charbonnet, who's not looked great. It's a lot of splitting time. At this point, it's almost better if Kenneth Walker sits out because then Zach Charbonnet gets a full workload. And that's probably best case scenario for managers that have either person. You scoop up Kenneth Charbonnet, you get a full workload out of Charbonnet. Fantasy wise, that's best case scenario.
Yeah, 100%. Anything else you want to touch on for running backs?
I don't think I got anything.
I don't either. On to the wide receivers. Don't look.
Okay, I won't look.
Who's number one? Oh, he muted himself. Okay.
Um, Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say second is Oh, I want to say Justin Jefferson. Wow. People are gonna think I'm cheating for sure.
I'm starting to think you are.
I'm not, I swear to God.
Let's see what you get for three here. Does he go for three? Does he
Three,
go three for three?
three. My mind tells me Amon Ra, but that's not right. He's had a bad week last week. Three. You give me like three names. You give
Amon
me in a random
Ra,
order.
Amon Ra, JSN, CD Lamb.
It's not Jason. I don't think it's Amon Ra, so it's gotta be CD. It's gotta go CD. Oh, those might not be even be the next three. You might have just gave me you might have threw me a curveball there.
I did.
Out of those, it's either CD or Amon Ra. Jay, I
It's
know Jason isn't
it's
three.
Amon Ra.
It is Amon Ra.
Yeah.
I should have stuck with my gut.
Yeah, so your top three is Jamar, Justin Jefferson, and Amon Ra. Jamar is ahead by a comfortable amount.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, Jamar is dominating this wide receiver position. As a Jamar owner, I
Like
am
he's got him by like 80
almost
points.
100, almost 100.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have done something crazy there and got all three if I would have just stuck with Amon Ra like I thought.
Yeah.
I thought that bad week had last week kicked him out of there.
Yeah, but as a Jamar Chase owner, I am so happy with this performance that Jamar Chase is putting on. Oh, it just brings a smile to my face, you know. If you remember the LeBron "You Are My Sunshine" meme, Jamar Chase is my sunshine, if you were wondering. Yeah.
So down
The
down the list, right? Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon Ra, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. Who?
hold on. Do I have something? Do I have the wrong one here?
I don't know.
I have Cortland Sutton at 9.
I have him at 12. There's only
We
two
got
points
some.
him and Brian Thomas, though.
Yeah, it's a very close race for me. I have Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas tied.
I do as well.
Yeah, I must have a different scoring. It's extremely close between all of them. So
Biggest surprise. We'll start there.
JSN,
Yeah, I would agree. I thought he was going to have a breakout season.
I
Um,
did.
I didn't think it was going to be something like this. I thought it would just be kind of like the next step in the evolution of JSN. And then once Tyler Lockett leaves, which is most likely at the end of the season, then he would have a bigger breakout season.
Mhm.
But I didn't think he was going to finish top 10 this year.
I completely agree. And we're Seahawks fans. We watch every game, and after watching this game, I didn't even think he was top 10. Like he's been popping off lately, and I didn't think he was top 10. I'm looking at this list, and he's six, and I'm like, whoa, he was really like doing really good. So, uh, yeah, I'm super surprised by JSN. I know. I'll let you touch on Terry McLaurin because that was kind of your pick, but this list is very interesting.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin, another one of my hot takes. We'll talk about at the end of the season. I thought he was going to have the best season of his career. He looks like he's on pace for that. I'm not super surprised just because I was just big on the Commanders hype train this offseason and leading up to the season. I can't. I think it was the Cliff Kingsbury and just the Jaden Daniels combination that I really loved. So I'm not super surprised he's finishing top 10. Top five is pretty sweet for all those Terry McLaurin fantasy owners. I know I went out and traded for him before the season started. I also drafted him in my work uh, league. Beat me to him in our league, so I couldn't get him there. But he is balling out for fantasy owners for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I beat you to him, and then I traded him away. That was actually part of the Bijan trade, so I don't really know if I made value, lost value there. I think it was kind of a little. Yeah, I think it was a fair trade if I'm being
Dynasty
honest.
and in Dynasty, you're going to win that just because of longevity for
I
Bijan.
don't know. This year it was a Chase Brown and Terry McLaurin for Bijan. That's
That's
that's a
something.
lot of value. I mean, I could be Sean for hopefully at least 2 more years as a top five guy. But yeah, Terry McLaurin having a great year. JSN, Garrett Wilson, two great wide receivers that are kind of having a breakout year. And I know Garrett Wilson, a lot of people have been waiting on this breakout, and it's finally happening. To me, I think he's been doing it very quietly, though. I feel like he's averaging only like 14 points a week, but he just does it every week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's such a good player. I feel like he hasn't gotten a lot of respect recently
For
because the
sure.
Jets have been struggling. So everyone's like, "Oh, he's a mid receiver now because of it." I got mixed feelings on him. I don't love him as a player, but I still respect him that he's really good as a player. So I'm somewhere kind of in the middle. Um, I don't hate it. I think it's kind of surprising with how the Jets season has gone that he is in the top 10. I guess I wouldn't have guessed that he would have been there. But kind of looking at these other names, I guess what is there to expect?
Yeah, for sure.
There are two rookies that snuck in here in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas coming in here at the bottom of this list.
And what school did they go to?
LSU, man, when you're in doubt, draft an LSU receiver.
I I don't think there's a way you could argue against that, man.
That's
Ohio State or LSU, you have to hit. You're shooting like 80%, I swear, from
it's insane. Brian Thomas, I was questionable on him as a prospect coming out. Shouldn't have doubted it. Should have just saw the three letters on the front of his jersey and go, he's going to be good.
you should, yeah, I agree. You can't disagree there.
Malik
Yeah.
Neighbors is less of a surprise only because he was on the Giants. Not a lot of target sharing going on around that team. They kind of have one target to throw to, even with his concussion weirdness going on and his lack of targets recently. Still great value, still top 10. What do you think about Jerry Judy coming in here sneakily trying to get his way into the top 10?
I I honestly just think it's that 1 week. I feel like that's the thing that's bringing him to this top 10. Without that 1 week, where does he place? With a normal week in place of that 1 week, where let's say he gets 16 instead of that 1 week. What was it, like 44 points that week?
I'm showing 40.5 in a
I got
standard.
40.5 as well.
Yeah.
You replace that with like a 17-point game. Where does that place him now? That's that.
Yeah, I mean it does drop him. Drops him down to like 20th. So that's fair.
I'm looking at past. He's been on a hot streak lately, though.
Mhm.
17
Yeah.
points last week, 14 points the week before the 40-point week. It's
You know
not
when
that
that
just
started?
when did that start?
When Jameis Winston took over.
Yeah,
It's a Deshaun Watson fault.
issue.
Yeah.
Sean Watson issue.
Yeah.
What do you think about Jameis?
I I'm not a big Jameis fan. Like everybody loves him because he's goofy, which is fine, but his play on the field, like he's not good. No, he's not good. He's like a below average. He's a backup is what he is. He's a high end backup.
So I saw, I think it was a quote from Cam Newton. I thought it described Jameis just perfectly, right? It said, want him to be a starter in the league, just not for my team."
Well, yeah, so I can play against him because I know
No,
I'm
not
getting
so you can
two
play because
picks.
he's fun to watch. Like
He's a goofy guy, which is
he's a
fine.
goofy
But
guy that slings the ball. It's a fun to watch. It's fun to watch Jameis as QB because he's slinging the rock. He's
he's like a
throwing that thing.
he's a funny bad Brett Favre,
Yeah, he's just a word. He's the Walmart version of Brett Favre.
but also a personality instead of just
Yeah, yeah. This is a great example.
like yeah, it's funny. It's good for the memes. It's good for a good laugh. But watching him play football, I'm like this is it's not good.
What's your favorite moment of Jameis?
Definitely eating the W.
Eating the
It was
W?
just like what the heck?
Mine's got to be during the play where he like sitting there for the hike and he just falls over.
Oh yeah, he didn't want a false start, so he just ate it. Can you imagine if the center would have snapped the ball though, as he's falling back, the ball just goes flying over his
He
head?
did.
No, I think
Watch, watch the play. No, he's falling back and he snaps it and he catches it and then he throws like an 80-yard dart.
really.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played that.
Oh, you gotta look up that plays amazing. Maybe I can find it.
All right, we'll keep moving. We'll keep moving.
It's a great play. There's an 80-yard dart.
So wide receivers going forward, do you have any that have decent matchups, ones you like, or is it just kind of your big ones? You know, your obviously your locked starters, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, down the list. Do you have any?
Jaden Reed.
Yeah, Jane Reed. Is there a reason matchup wise, or just
Yeah. So you got first round of the playoffs he's against Seattle. Seattle's kind of been inconsistent in the past defending. It really depends upon who Seattle puts on them. I don't know their game plan, whether it's Spoon, Reek, or can't even remember the other cornerback name right now. But I think
Job?
it depends. What?
Job, probably.
Yeah, Job. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't remember his name. Job. If they put Job on him, he's going to go for 40. If they put Spoon on him, he's still probably going to go for 15. Um, Jaden Reed, I feel like he's good. He's a good 12-point guarantee against the Seahawks. And then you got next week against New Orleans where he's going to drop 25, right? And that's going to get you the championship, right? So Jaden Reed's going to get you the championship, and then he faces Minnesota, which I don't think I can predict that game. It's a division game. I don't like predicting division games. You can't really guess what happens in those.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's gonna be high scoring, but then I'm like division game, they tend to be lower scoring. It's
Yeah. So I'm a little iffy on the championship game for you, but I think he will hopefully get you to the championship with his game against New Orleans.
my sleeper, and this is a guy that I love. I went out and I traded for him in my redraft league because I think he's gonna win the league for me. Jacoby Myers,
Jacoby Myers.
wide receiver one on the Raiders. He
Hmm.
has three of the best matchups the next 3 weeks. He has the Falcons this week, he has the Jaguars week 16, and he has the Saints the championship week. He is the wide receiver one. He has gotten 10 or more targets the last 3 games in a row. He has gotten 13 or more fantasy points in his last, five out of his last 6 games. Like he is on fire right now. Nobody's talking about him. He's got great matchups. This guy is a league winner. Obviously, trading deadline is past. If you have him on your team, I think you basically have to be starting him. I don't know who your if he's not starting in your flex spot, you might have to make a serious decision on who your wide receiver two is and stick him in there because
Yeah,
I
for
I'm,
sure.
I'm serious on this. He's going to go off for you. He's going to win you a league.
Definitely keep that in mind. I don't think I can make a change on my team right now for Jacoby Myers, but if you guys have Jacoby Myers, probably start him. The last guy I have is Jawan Jennings.
Okay.
So he has the Rams first round of the playoffs. Last time he played the Rams, he dropped 46 points. So I don't think he's going to repeat that, but I would expect a hopefully 15-point game ish around there, and I'll definitely take that from Jawan Jennings. Then the playoff round two, you got Miami, which is actually a pretty good pass defensive team. So that's maybe don't start him in that game. But then I'm looking at Detroit in the championship game. And if there's something that Detroit does bad, it's their DBs. I know that Detroit team is very good, but the weakness of that team is that pass. They're DBs. I mean, you got Teron Arnold, who is a physical, touchy corner. That guy likes to hold and pass interference. I know that doesn't give you points, but he's gonna have a lot of opportunities to get the ball, I think, in Detroit, especially since I think it's gonna be a higher scoring game because it's the 49ers, and then Detroit just knows how to score the ball very well. So they're going to be passing a lot. Yeah, so I think he'll have a pretty good game against Detroit and the Rams. So I think he'd be a good uh, playoff person.
Sounds good. I like it. I like it. We're gonna move on to tight ends. You want to take a stab
Titans.
at who tight end one is?
Ooh,
Oh boy, if you don't know.
no, I gotta act like I don't know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's Sam Lagoda. It's not Sam Lagoda.
You
It's
know who
Brock
it is?
Bowers. It's
Yeah, okay,
Brock
okay.
Bowers.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeez. I was like, how do you not know?
It's Brock Bowers. I think he's got to be ahead. He's probably in like the same boat as Jamar Chase, where he's just like 100 points ahead of everybody.
I got 20.
Oh,
The thing is though, like Kittle. and McBride have just been having really good seasons also.
That's true.
So that's yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, this tight end position, you can have one 20-point game and you move up 13 spots in the tight end rankings.
Well, I mean, look at Jonnu Smith, right? He had what, 3 good weeks? He had those 3 20-point weeks, and then other than that, he broke, I guess he broke 10 4 times. He had a sneaky good season, and then he just had those 3 really good weeks where everybody kind of figured it out.
Mhm.
But then you got K. Dotton, who's sneakily having a good season. Mark Andrews, who's turned it on of late, snuck into the top 10. David Njoku, Tucker Craft. Other than that top 10, I mean, tight ends are kind of a horse apiece after that point. The biggest disappointment, and I think this has been for the last couple seasons, it will continue to be Kyle Pitts. This man cannot figure out how to play football. It is devastating. There's so much potential there. It can never get figured out. I don't know. I don't know how or why.
Yeah. Yeah. Tight end 15
It's sad. He's gonna be due for a contract here, like what,
next
next
year.
year,
Next year.
and he hasn't done anything.
What was he picked? What wasn't he like sixth?
Sixth, seventh. I don't.
Waste of a pick.
So far, yeah.
Like one of the most athletic tight ends we've ever seen.
He
And he's
he should
done
have been
nothing with
probably
it.
the best tight end in like ever. He should have been like Jimmy Graham in Jimmy Graham's prime.
What?
When, Ju- when
I
Jimmy
think
when
those are
Jimmy Graham
totally
was on the
two different
Saints,
players. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm sorry. I instantly go Seahawks when Jimmy
so like
Graham on
on
the
his
Saints was
on his
insane
that's what Kyle Pitts should be.
for sure. Yeah,
It's just da da. Get him over to the Broncos. Sean Payton. Sean Payton's the one who figured out how to use Jimmy Graham. Sure, he can figure out how to use Kyle Pitts.
that is true. Oh,
Broncos could probably get him for relatively cheap in a contract year next year.
Bo Nix did throw to his tight end quite a bit in college.
Hear me out. This might be a hot take. This could be something. Watch for this in the offseason. Broncos traded for Kyle Pitts. That'd be pretty crazy.
That would be pretty crazy.
That'd be pretty spicy.
I kind of like it.
I'm just out here. I'm slinging. I got ideas.
Stirs the pot.
They're just constantly rattling around in here, and one finds its way out the door.
And some of them are bad ideas, some of them are good ideas, but
Always good. Always good.
they're not always good.
Always good.
Not always good.
So Brock Bowers is
A dog.
a dog. Absolute dog. He's also going to win you leagues. He's the same, obviously, same team as Jacoby Myers. So same matchups: Falcons, Jaguars, Saints. Good matchups for tight ends. He's already been putting up monster numbers this year. He's gotten you to the playoffs. He's going to help carry you through the playoffs. Those are also
Sure.
the basically only two receiving threats they have on their team, which means they're going to get all the targets. I like it. I don't care who's starting at quarterback. They're going to be peppering to those two guys.
Yeah, would you say Brock Bowers is what Kyle Pitts should have been?
Yes, but different play style. Like like Pitts is
If
way more
you,
athletic than Bowers, so they would be using him in a similar way, but Pitts could also do like more down the field stuff instead of just like all the short and intermediate
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, Pitts is more of a wide receiver, but if you look at how they were used in college, they were used the same way. I mean, Georgia was throwing screens to Brock Bowers. Kyle Pitts was getting screens at Florida. Brock Bowers wasn't running like deep routes, but like they were trying to get these guys the ball because they were the best players on the field. And you usually don't see that in your tight end. Like trying, like running screens to your tight end, you don't see that very often. I think that just speaks how good Brock Bowers is because he's still doing that in the NFL and how good Kyle Pitts should have been. And he's clearly hasn't worked out.
But going back to the Pitts though, that's the crazy part about this is one season the Raiders offensive coordinator figured out, hey, I can use Brock Bowers and he can be good. And Pitts has what, two different offensive coaches that haven't been able to figure out how to use them? Like this might not be a coordinator problem. This could be a Pitts problem. I don't think so, just because I haven't seen like the targets for Pitts. Like he hasn't gotten the opportunities, which is crazy.
You think he's just it's a bad scheme? Like he's just not getting the ball?
He might just be a bust.
Well, I think we could have told you that, but is it Kyle Pitts' fault or is it the team he's on?
Well,
Why is
that's what
Kyle Pitts a
that's what I'm
fault a
getting at.
bust?
Is it? I think everybody blamed it on Arthur Smith, right?
Oh,
They put
Arthur
all
Smith
this
is
blame on Arthur
terrible.
Smith. It was a
Arthur Smith
super
is
easy
terrible.
scapegoat, right? Pitts is going to be better now that he has a new offensive coordinator. Kirk Cousins is there. He's going to be able to get him the ball more. He hasn't. So is this a coordinator problem, a play calling problem, or is this a Pitts problem?
I
You
think,
fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like everybody believed in him again, and now it's kind of like, well, you're not giving me anything.
we'll also look at what we just went over. Where was the Falcons running back in the rankings?
What for?
Where was the Falcons wide receiver one in the rankings?
Like 7, 8, something like that.
I think he was seven.
Yeah.
So like clearly they're getting the ball. So that makes me think it's a play calling issue. Like the ball's not going to them, it's going to Drake London. Clearly this isn't a very balanced offense.
Oh, Mooney's getting a lot of targets too. He's having a great year.
Yeah. So Kyle Pitts isn't getting the ball. I don't think he's getting his opportunities.
Maybe he's just not open though. You know what I mean? If he's not doing what he needs to do, you know what I mean? Like it could be a him problem too. Just nobody talks about it. I haven't watched the tape, so I can't say for sure that is the problem. I haven't
What if it's
seen.
like a scheme thing where, hey, Kyle Pitts is this fast tight end that you have to worry about? Like we haven't proven you have to worry about him because you have always worried about him.
I don't think teams are gonna respect a big threat 3 years after he's drafted when he hasn't done anything. The league is so recency biased that it's you
Yeah.
haven't done anything recently. Like, why do I need to respect you? It's burn me and then I'll respect you kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes me then turn to, hey, Kyle Pitts, what's going on, man? Are you not
That's
getting
that's
open?
that's kind of where I'm getting at. I'm getting to the point where it's like Pitts just might not be a good player, and I don't know that. I can't say that confidently because, like I said, I haven't sat down and just watched tape of him running routes and doing what he's doing. Like, if is he really the problem? I don't know. I'm just saying I'm kind of getting there as a fan. I'm like something's not adding up here. Like,
Yeah, I 100% agree. Kyle Pitts dilemma there for you.
yeah, has been will continue to be.
Is Kyle Pitts a bust? That's a good question. I think uh,
Thumbnail.
as much as I want to say, hey, just give him one more year. We've given him one more year two times.
And they're going to do it again next year. I promise. Everybody's gonna be like, this is his year. This is his year. It's like the Trevor Lawrence effect. This is his year.
I was just about to say
He's
Trevor
got all
Lawrence,
the tools.
but I'm a big Trevor Lawrence fan, so like
There's
Trevor
there's
Lawrence
a
is a
lot of Pitts
dog.
fans out there too.
Yeah, I mean, highest tight end ever taken. I mean, you got to buy around that hype. But 3 years later, where's that hype gotten us?
Yep.
Probably losing in your fantasy league.
Probably losing in your fantasy. That's a good point. That is a good
We
point.
got to figure out the percentage of Kyle Pitts owners that made it to the playoffs.
Ooh, I don't even know how you'd find that stat. That's a good research point right there.
Yeah. With that, I think we're gonna end this episode. Little just fantasy overview, going through the rankings right before playoffs, giving you a few players go look out for, go try and get, or just put in your starting lineup this coming week. Get you to that championship game. We're gonna try and win you guys that shit. Maybe make you some money. Maybe you punish your friends. Whatever your fantasy leagues are, having fun with it. That's what fantasy's ultimately for, to have fun. I know I get caught up in the competitiveness. I'm just trying to win and trash talk all my friends because I beat them and slaughter them and stuff.
Game
But
first for last.
there we go. Yeah, that's a Talladega Nights reference. But with that, I think we're gonna end this podcast or episode. Uh, see you guys next time.
See you next Tuesday. Peace out, everybody.